Here it is now, my conversation with Missouri Senator Josh Hawley. One of the things that you can talk about for the purposes of sports is this idea that sports can help to raise awareness and consciousness of what might be going on. And that rather than bow down to the Chinese overlords, as the NBA has done, and basically put Daryl Morey in witness protection ever since he said free Hong Kong. And so the NBA has made the decision, okay, we're going to make statements on our jerseys. And this is where your connection to the NBA and ESPN and Disney came in. We're recording this on Saturday. Yesterday, on a Friday, you released a letter which asked Commissioner Adam Silver why the NBA was allowing certain statements to be made on a jersey, but, for instance, they wouldn't allow anybody to put free Hong Kong on their jerseys or support the Chinese people who are consuming the NBA content and will see these games. In theory, the NBA is doing what I think you would agree with me is sort of a fake wokeness, right? They will rip American institutions and they will rip American values, which will then be used as Chinese propaganda, right? Because all these Chinese communists are going to be showing the NBA in their country, and they're going to say, see, look, everything is not great in America. Look at all the things and ways that they're being mistreated. And this could be, if the NBA wants to get political with their jerseys, why are they being hypocritical, bowing down to China and their communist leadership while ripping the United States? And you raised this issue with Adam Silver, and all hell broke loose again there as well. But what was the intent of your letter to the NBA?
The NBA makes a tremendous amount of money in China. I mean, just a tremendous amount of money. And then this is where I think the NBA has some obligations, right? I mean, even before they started this stuff about putting social justice cause statements on the back of the uniforms just recently, that their relationship with China is now pretty long-standing. And when you're making that much money in that kind of a place, doing deals with that sort of a government, which is what the NBA corporate is doing, then I think when you've got a situation like we've had in Hong Kong, or like you've got with the Uyghurs, who are a religious minority, who are literally in concentration camps in China, in concentration camps now, I think you've got some responsibility to say something about that. At least say that, well, my gosh, we don't agree with that. But, you know, I mean, the NBA's, what's their latest contract just this past year, worth over $1.5 billion. I mean, it's just unbelievable, the amount of money. You mentioned the you know, sort of the woke stance that the NBA is taking. It's corporate. It's classic corporate wokeness. You know, it's nothing that would interfere with profits, for heaven's sake. I mean, profits, oh my gosh, we're going to get those. And nothing that would interfere with our multinational plan to scoop up money in all of these different markets. You know, for so many American corporations, if that means selling out the American worker, sending jobs overseas, oh, by golly, we'll do that in a heartbeat. But don't, but we're woke, don't get mad at us because we're woke. It's really a huge distraction to try and move attention away from what they're really doing, what these huge corporations are really doing. And the NBA is right there in terms of the money they are making in China and the kind of deal that they have made with the Chinese government. And, I think it is not too much to ask them, which is my point to Silver in my letter. First of all, what is the deal with China? Why aren't you saying anything as you make all this money as an organization? And at the very least, if you're going to put statements on the back of jerseys, why wouldn't you allow a player to wear a free Hong Kong statement on the back? I mean, for that matter, why not support our troops? I mean, what's wrong with that, too? But just on the China thing, why not free Hong Kong? Why not free the Uyghurs? That's that religious minority that's in concentration camps. Because you're right, the people of China would see that. That would send a message. It would, I think, frankly, show that the NBA is willing to stand up a little bit. But, oh, no, we can't have any of that. You saw the reaction.
Also, Adam Silver said that they had mutual respect, the NBA did for China. You just mentioned the concentration camps, the cracking down on all Hong Kong democracy, the fact that over 1 billion Chinese people don't have basic human rights. It should be insulting to all Americans that Adam Silver said in any way that the NBA has mutual respect for what China stands for, shouldn't it?
Yeah, that's just about money. I mean, it's sure it's mutual respect for making money for NBA corporate. I mean, that's what it's about. Again, as it is for so many of these multinational corporations. I can tell you that the Chinese government, Beijing, doesn't have any respect for anybody in America. And you look at the kind of respect they showed us when Daryl Morey, to your point, Clay, when he had the audacity just to retweet. As I recall, Morey didn't actually himself say anything. He just retweeted a one little line about Hong Kong, and look how the Beijing government came down on this American citizen by demanding he be fired, by threatening to pull all the Rockets games from television, then I think threatening to pull all of the NBA games from all of the Chinese platforms. I mean, that's not respect. That is contempt. That is an attempt to control and to subjugate us, just like they want to subjugate their own people. And for the NBA to not only turn a blind eye, but actually to cooperate. I mean, to go along with the kowtowing by saying, oh, Morey misspoke. That little incident with Morey in Hong Kong, and that, they're working on repairing the NBA's relationship with China. Repairing it? What they should be doing is saying to Beijing, listen, we're proud to be Americans. And if you try to tell us what to think or what to say or what to do, we're going to tell you where to step off.
All right, so you write that letter, which, by the way, I thought was fantastically well done. I retweeted it when I saw it go out. And you also, and this is pretty commonplace, it's a big story, the way that the NBA's relationship with China is going. And so when you write a letter like this, it's not uncommon that media members would get added to a letter like this via email so you can make them aware because they cover the league, because they should be aware of the relationship between the NBA and politicians, given that the NBA is going to be a social justice warrior organization, at least for this restart of the season in Orlando and all the changes with the jersey and the statements on the court and everything else. You send it out to a variety of NBA media, and how soon after that email goes out does Adrian Wojnarowski, and I'll say it, you may not want to curse, but he writes back, you. That's the entire message from his ESPN corporate email account back to your office for having the gall to ask the NBA about its response to China. How quickly does that happen, and who on your staff was like, oh, my God, is this real? I mean, kind of take me into how that process played out.
We got that back from him. I mean, let me just look. I can look right here. Within, 2 minutes, Clay. We sent it out at 8:55. I've got this in front of me. We sent out the press release about our letter to press at 8:55, and at 8:57, Woj writes back from his iPhone, because it's tagged sent from my iPhone. With the message
so he gets that sent
described
directly to him. 2 minutes later, he writes back you to a United States senator in Missouri from his ESPN corporate email account. And did you think you were being pranked? Like when one of your staff members was like, hey, wait a minute, can you believe what Adrian Wojnarowski just wrote back?
Well, I have to say I did. I sort of looked at it, and listen, we get responses, not usually from members of the press, but we people troll us all the time, and that's
welcome to the internet. Yeah, there's a lot of ridiculousness out there. But from a media member, have you ever seen anything like that, to have that happen that quickly and have that response?
No, I've never seen that response from a media member before, and it took. I was like, well, my first thought was this must be fake. I mean, what's the deal here? But no, I mean, it's the ESPN.com, and then my other thought was that he's just saying what ESPN thinks. I mean,
that's right.
I'm frankly not surprised. My expectation, to be perfectly honest with you, is that ESPN would completely ignore
that's right.
because
That's what
they don't want to cover this
to do.
issue at all.
Yeah.
Absolutely. That's what they did back in October. I mean, they grudgingly, with the Hong Kong blow-up in the NBA back in October, they grudgingly, as memory serves, finally got around to covering it, kinda. But it's like let's move on as quick as possible, because Clay, the ESPN, Disney, the parent company, they benefit too financially from the NBA's relationship with China. I mean, let's be honest here. And I'm sure in terms of their own staff members, views, employees' views. It's not woke center for nothing. So I was surprised by that response, but I thought, this is becoming all too typical of what the media, they won't report the news. They won't actually ask the tough questions. I mean, why is the real question here is, why isn't ESPN asking these questions of the NBA? I mean, why aren't they going and saying, hey, hold on just a second. Are you not going to say anything about what's going on in this country where you make literally billions of dollars? You have nothing. Why aren't they pressing them? That's the real issue.
Yeah, and let's go in here for a second to the law, because both of us are lawyers. You know this better than I do because you were a freaking Supreme Court clerk, but there's a difference between providing complete First Amendment freedoms to your players to make whatever political statement they want to make on their jerseys and discriminating on content, right? Because what the NBA is basically doing is a form of propaganda. They are saying, hey, we're okay with you making political statements so long as we agree with those political statements, right? So in other words, it's not a content neutral policy when it comes to their jersey. They are selecting the opinions that the players are allowed to advertise on their jersey. And it's a very ripe moment of hypocrisy here that you can point and say, oh, you're fine ripping the United States and other institutions and taking particular sides here where there's zero risk because of all the freedoms we have, but you won't stand up for the basic human rights of others around the world that you are taking billions of dollars for. This is the very essence of what the job of sports media should be, right? To speak truth to power. Instead, you raise all these issues, and ESPN's top NBA reporter, his first response is to say, not, oh, these are interesting issues that should be explored. It's to say, you to a sitting United States senator.
You're right about all of that, Clay, and you're right about, I think it's just an important point, that this is corporate-approved speech on the back of these jerseys. My understanding is, the NBA can correct me if I'm wrong, but my understanding is that it's not like the players can just go out and say, oh, hey, this is what I want on the back of my jersey. We're going to do the cause statements. Here's what I want on mine. The NBA has to approve it. So
That's right.
They selected, handful, right, of these statements. Here are the approved statements. And, there's nothing in there about Hong Kong, about China, about the concentration camps, none of that. Nor, by the way, is there anything in there like support our troops or back the blue or anything.
Or God bless America.
Or God bless America. We couldn't have that, for heaven's sake. So this is the NBA corporate saying that here's the kind of speech that you can have. And it just so happens to be speech that is great for their bottom line. Imagine that.
So also, again, I want to circle back around to what I think is the most stunning part about this is ESPN really, by and large, as a corporation, saying what they believe, because Woj got tremendous, applause inside of the ESPN family for saying this, right? And you tweeted out, like, this is distracting in some ways. I mean, the reality is it gets a lot more attention and it forces ESPN to acknowledge it, at least in some way. But Woj has the right to his opinion. He can say F you to a senator if he wants to. I think he believes that, and I think he means it. And I don't particularly begrudge anybody from their own ability to have their own political opinions. But when you represent an ESPN organization that's supposed to be covering the NBA, to me, this is just illustrative of ESPN's contempt for a large percentage of their audience that they would even have somebody saying this. And by the way, do you think that Woj keeps his job if he responds this way to AOC? If Barack Obama's office sends out a press release and his immediate response is you to Barack Obama or to AOC, is there any way that he keeps his job at ESPN? In other words, you're a Republican senator. I think he can get away with saying that because there's so much support and contempt for Republicans inside of ESPN. But if he had done that to a Democratic star, I think there's a good chance he gets fired.
Yeah, it's probably a different standard for sure. But Clay, I think the big thing here is that it just shows you that ESPN is not willing to do their job of actually, A, reporting, and
Yes.
B, asking tough questions. And to me, that was the significance of his email. I mean, listen, I want to be clear about that. I never asked for an apology from Woj.
Yep.
I don't want one, and I don't want him canceled either. This isn't about. I've not asked for him to be fired. I don't want him to be fired.
Neither of us believe in cancel culture. That's
no,
not like,
I don't.
exactly
I'm
right.
100%
Yeah.
against it. Yeah, 100% against it. So some people said to me yesterday, like, "Yeah, you're trying to cancel him." I'm not trying to cancel him. I don't even want an apology from him. You know, I mean, when Whitlock asked me, "Hey, do you want Woj to apologize?" I said, "No, I don't want him to apologize." I mean, the ESPN, made him do this thing where he went out and apologized, and, whatever. My point is that is a distraction. That whole thing is a distraction from the bottom line, which is that ESPN's attitude, as reflected by their star reporter, their attitude is that when you want to ask tough questions, well, it's F you. When you want to say something, well, why isn't the NBA doing that? It's F you. How dare you even pose the question? And that's the attitude. I mean, how dare you even ask? And my view is wait a minute, why aren't you asking? I mean, you're the reporter. Why aren't you out there asking? Why isn't ESPN as a news organization for sports, allegedly, why aren't they pressing these questions? And it just goes back to they're bought in 100%, appear to be, to the agenda, the corporate woke agenda of the NBA, and they're bought in to what's going on in China. And this is why, by the way, Clay, I said yesterday, listen, rather than ESPN is calling me, and the Disney people are calling me, they're saying, how can we talk to you? And I said, listen, let's just get to the bottom line here. I'm inviting the ESPN CEO to my office. So I said, let's talk. Jimmy Pitero and I, let's just sit down and talk, and let's talk about the NBA and China and ESPN and what you guys are doing and your reporting. Let's have an open dialogue about it. So that's what I've done, by the way. For the record, I have invited him to come to Washington to sit down and talk. I don't want to talk to a bunch of lobbyists. I want to talk to him. I want to talk to the ESPN CEO, and I don't want to talk about Woj. I want to talk about China and the NBA and ESPN's coverage and their responsibilities. And I hope he'll say yes.
What have you heard, if anything, from the NBA, Disney, and ESPN so far? Is it so far just been corporate PR stooges trying to spin you? Or what sort of response? It's obviously only been a day, but what sort of response have you gotten so far?
Yeah, it's been just, Woj was he was out of line. I think they put out a statement. ESPN put out a statement yesterday afternoon, and sort of how he was a very bad boy and shouldn't have talked that way, and we'll take care of it. And he said, that apologies are cheap and they don't do anything. Let's get to the action. Let's get to actually doing something about the real issue. And that's why I say I haven't heard anything substantive from anybody. So I don't want them trotting out their employees for apologies. I want to see them actually standing up and asking the tough questions. And I'd like some answers from the NBA. Let's not let them off the hook. ESPN here has inserted themselves into the story, but exposed themselves really. But, the NBA, I expect a response from Silver. I'm awaiting a response from Silver. I've heard zero from him or from the league. And I'd like some answers to my questions. And when I get those answers, I'm certainly going to let people know. If I don't get answers, I'm going to let them know that. So I expect to hear from the NBA. And I also am looking forward to sitting down with the ESPN CEO, and I hope that takes place soon.